The 11 men on Connecticut's death row, including the Cheshire home invasion murderers, can never be executed. Good evening, I'm Ann Narberg.
I'm Keith Kuntz. The state Supreme Court has ruled that the new law that repealed the death penalty going forward, but kept it on the books for those already convicted, violates the state constitution. We've got team coverage tonight. We begin with Chief Political Correspondent Mark Davis, who has covered Connecticut's changes to the death penalty statute for some 35 years. Mark joins us live with the story and some background tonight. Good evening, Mark.
Hi, Keith and Ann. Good evening, everyone from the Hartford newsroom. You'll remember there was so much public outrage over the Cheshire home invasion murders that advocates for repeal of the state's death penalty knew that they could never get it passed if it included Joshua Komisarjevsky and Stephen Hayes, the two men convicted in that terrible, terrible crime. Well, they repealed the death penalty prospectively, going forward. Many said that that would be overturned in the courts, and today that's exactly what happened.
The court has adjudged that the death penalty is cruel and unusual as it might be applied to those already sentenced.
Today's decision by the state's highest court had been predicted and expected ever since the law repealing the state's death penalty statute was passed 3 years ago. The entire debate had been overshadowed by the July 2007 Cheshire home invasion that resulted in the brutal murders of a mother and her 2 children. The 2 men responsible had just been sentenced to the death penalty when the repeal bill came for a vote. In order to get enough votes to pass in the Senate, advocates for the repeal crafted language that said those already on death row would not be affected. Life in prison would only be for future crimes. On the day before the vote, the lone survivor of the crime, Dr. William Pettit, came to the Capitol to say the bill was a sham.
Prospective repeal of the death penalty is false. There will be multiple appeals for people already on death row.
Roll call vote has been ordered in the Senate. Will all senators please return to the chamber? Despite
that prediction from Dr. Pettit and many others, the Senate passed the bill the next day. The House followed a week later, despite an impassioned plea from the highly regarded minority leader that the bill made no sense.
The bill that's before us says something that, at least with due respect to my mind, is illogical and, in my opinion, impossible.
Governor Malloy, who openly supported the prospective repeal, quickly signed it.
I think that you know the law of Connecticut, as decided by the Supreme Court, is that is recognition that we didn't have a working death penalty statute to begin with.
There has only been one execution in the state of Connecticut in the past 50 years. That was serial killer Michael Ross a few years back, and that only happened because he gave up his appeals. Because there are limitless appeals in a death penalty case, he gave up his appeals and wanted to be executed. Live from the Hartford newsroom, Mark Davis, News 8.